Trust me. What was that? Oh my God! Hunter, how do we get down? I don't have a signal.
The water is out there in that bag.
We have 50 feet of rope. I think I could drop myself lower. Okay, I'm gonna jump onto the bag. Hunter, no! Hunter!
Every hour that passes, the weaker we get.
If anyone called 911, they'd be here by now.
What is it that Dan used to say?
If you're scared of dying, don't be afraid to live.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Nerdcore interview series here on our YouTube channel and on the airwaves throughout all our podcast platforms. Today, we're being joined by Scott Mann, the writer and director of Fall. Scott, it's really nice to be here with you. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure to be here with you too. I just want to tell you, first off, thank you for the abundance of anxiety with this film. One of my biggest fears is heights. One of my biggest irrational fears is heights. And watching this last night, my palms were sweaty. You know, I don't know about the knees weak and none of that, but I was just feeling so anxious. And
I'm going to apologize, but also I hope that it took you through a journey at the end of it that you were happy with.
It's okay. I thought after Uncut Gems, I was done feeling this anxious with films, but it seems that your film reminded me, Raul, you still hate heights. You still hate heights.
It's this. I think the stress of the concept, it's really like playing out. Obviously, I don't want to commit any psychological harm to everyone, but I feel like I look at it like a theme park ride, right? It's like going on a like an extreme, like Six Flags roller coaster, and it's that going through it, kind of get the other end is quite rewarding, and that's the reaction you hope for, honestly, because that's what we try to do. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Can you talk to us a little bit about Fall?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I guess the key to it was really trying to do something nowadays, given what's happened in the world of cinema, honestly, that we've got all these new mediums of distribution and what's not, and it's dictating what is actually getting made. And I feel like myself and writer and producer and a lot of us, we were always feeling like the films I want to see and the things that I really want to see, we're not getting much chance to anymore, like original films that, as much as I absolutely love, to be fair, like Marvel and all the kind of, the temples that come out, I'm a big fan and I watch those with my kids especially. But I kind of feel like the original cinema element has been harder and harder to do. And so kind of finding something that you could do well, that jumps out at you, that actually there's a reason to go to the theater, is that's what the principle was that we followed with Fall, to try and really play up that horror of heights, fear of falling, and make a really exciting movie based on that really kind of thrills and stresses you all the way through your ride, as it were.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about, bringing back the original element of cinema here, and you're talking about making sure that these films still have a place to play at the theaters and such. Was it kind of difficult to get this film here? From production to distribution, was it hard to get here?
It was honestly hell. It was but no, it was look, every film, I think anyone who makes a movie, in my mind, like after making my first film, I remember looking with a different regard to people who pull off making movies, because it is so difficult to get a movie done, right? Like, and I think that because the forces are all against you, like you're trying to create something from nothing. You're trying to create something that usually costs several $1 million. So it requires an investing in kind of attitude element of risk that is difficult to kind of get over. And it's a hard thing to kind of pull together. So, and I don't mean that as a kind of pat on my back for this. It's more about like the fact that it's difficult in a normal environment to make a movie, and I think what we wanted to focus on was making a movie that we all wanted to watch, that was born from a seed of something good. So it was, and the hardship on this one was really basically we knew to capture it and do it properly, we had to shoot it for real. And so the hardest bit was, how do you film a film at 2,000 feet? Like, how do you capture that for real and not be green screen and not be fake and all those other things? Because I think audiences are past that, and we sense it. We know when something's not real, and especially when it's something that's pushing psychological kind of thriller horror buttons. Like, for my mind, the cinema has taught us, don't go big budget, don't put a gloss of sheen that pulls you out of the picture, go raw, go real. And so the challenge was, how do you shoot at 2,000 feet was the big challenge, and that required us to basically find an incredible location, essentially like a big mountain with a cliff drop off, and build a tower at the top of a mountain, which was its own endeavor, really. But yeah, that was the tricky part, and then everything else you normally get with a movie.
I'm pretty sure y'all gave your on-set medics and your safety managers a run for their money on this one.
That's that. This is true.
Work.
Yeah. Oh man, everyone was worried. I see the first day, like we had all these like storm warnings and things because it's so windy. When you're at that height, it's so windy. So we built a structure that was like, look, we had the best stunt, like we had the guys who did the Dubai climb in Mission Impossible doing the rigging. We had like the very best people kind of helping with the engineering of this thing. But ultimately, like it it's risky because it goes over a certain kind of wind speed, and this thing could blow over and all these kind of things. So there's a constant kind of check on, okay, safety first. And we had to kind of like work around, obviously kind of make sure that everyone was safe, but equally like create an environment where the girls can really be in that situation, really be hanging off this thing. So when we're shooting it on these cameras and we're shooting it on like kind of IMAX wide view, that we're able to kind of see them for real. And it was tricky, but look, no one got hurt. It was all, no one even got COVID. Can you believe? Like, that was the other thing. It was an adventure.
That's kind of a surprise nowadays. It's wild, but the film is really about, it's not just about the heights, but it's also especially about a fight for, with grief and loss. And I wanted to know, how important was it to kind of balance those two things that are about this film, about, the grief and about this intense feeling of like the heights and, the fear of heights.
No, good question and observation, right? I think that I think personally look, there's two falls in the movie, right? There's the fall of height and there's the grief story, and for me, every great movie that I remember manages to do that trick of having something really pure and human story wrapped up in something kind of entertaining and theme park ridey. So it's kind of like, I think that it was really important to get the pure part of the story and the reason, in a way, the personal reason for making the movie, get that right. And it was, I'd say that's arguably, if there's one thing I would want people to take out of it, it's actually that story, which is a dealing with grief and a healing story. And I hope that kind of I hope that the theme park ride you go on through the movie, that it drags you through this kind of horror and then this thrill ride, is that at the end of it, there's also that cathartic kind of emotional story that you take away from it. And in fact, that's probably more important than anything, because that deals with something very kind of raw and real, and it's something that, it's something personal to me as well, actually. So I kind of wanted to get that right and get it told in a kind of honest way, really.
Yeah. And like I told you, the film feels very, very, very like it's anxiety inducing. It feels like, because you're mixing the practical and you're kind of mixing, that CG in here. But I wanted to know, what was the process for framing this like? Because a lot of these shots are not tight. You would think when it comes to something like this, you would want to go a little tight, right?
Yeah. I think that
claustrophobia, but they're very wide.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. Well, funnily enough, yes, very wide. And McGregor, who shot it, look, we were shooting it we're shooting it for IMAX, right? So we knew big screen was important, and to get the perspective of that, we wanted that for the height. But to get the perspective, what we actually did was we had some like VR goggles on set. So rather than looking at a little monitor, when we were doing these big things, we were able to put the VR goggles and go in a VR IMAX theater and look at how it looks on the screen. And then what you discover there is you should be wider. And we ended up just sticking stickers everywhere, say, go wider, like have faith in the fact that people will see it's the girls for real on a large screen. And I think and that really kind of pushed us into a place where it affected everything, you know, in a good way. And I think that's another thing on the theatrical experience. I think television, you know, for different reasons, you want to be tighter, right? You want to be, you know, there's a different film grammar. Whereas actually for this kind of big theatrical kind of ride experience, you want a different style. And it's definitely like, hats off to McGregor, who shot the film, who kind of really pushed for that, shooting for real, shooting it wide, like capturing the reality of this, and just having kind of never relying on CG, basically, like never having that, like just capture everything and then only kind of like CG out anything that kind of is safety wires or like a stitch or whatever. But yeah, it's very much kind of play it for real, and that was the key.
Well, congratulations on the film. The film is playing in August 12th. It will be released nationwide here in the United States in select cities. So make sure you all go and check that out when it's finally out for the public to see. Go to the theaters to watch this, because I'm telling you, on my TV, it probably was not the same feeling you're going to get when you're in that big room with that big screen and seeing those heights. It's crazy.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. Biggest screen possible, loudest sound system possible, right? That's what you want. It's yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. Thanks, Raul. Thanks very much, man. Pleasure talking to you.